They just scrolling. I'm posting facts all day about the blockchain, the edge, showing them how constellation grown, keep that data hedge. Explain how dogs flying high is breaking the mold, but they scroll like I'm preaching to folks who won't be sold. Hit them with details on Metagraph tech, but they keep scrolling on like I ain't dropped a spec. From zero trust security to IoT, I got the knowledge they need, but they just flee. I got those deeds, I got that hype. Every time they scroll, I'm missing out on the pipe. I'm spitting out gems, yet they keep passing by. Feeling like a ghost shouting into the sky. They see me scrolling, they scrolling. That's all the info I'm showing, trying to get them to see stop growing. They just scrolling. Talking about the metanomics and decentralized trust, but they just swipe up like it's all just a bust. DAG or Dova proof and quantum resist, but they act like it's vapor, can't say they persist. Got facts about constellation, AI unlock, but they scroll past the posts, won't even stop the gawk. Scroll warriors, I call them, missing out on the chance to get in on the tab, the future finance. I'm showing them strides, but they scroll by so quick. Got data's best armor, but it don't do the trick. They want that fast hype, not the facts I display.
Rolling. All right, we're scrolling. We're scrolling right into Friday, and I'm here with Bob Hamill. We had a stream with him on Monday. It was the Metagraph announcement, and shocker, Bob won. And so, Bob, I mean, like, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I like I said during our stream, I was blown away right from the beginning. When I saw this application, this one just jumped out to me just because it sort of checked all the boxes. So for those who that missed that initial stream, maybe can you walk through everybody, like why did you pick this type of application to submit to the hackathon?
Yeah, thanks. And before I get into it, just thanks to everybody that put on the hackathon and the sponsors for the prizes. It was really fun to participate in, and winning was awesome. There's a lot of cool projects out there, so glad I was able to come out on top. It was very cool to hear that and watch the announcement live stream and hear kind of the cool feedback that everybody had about the project. So that was very rewarding. But the project itself was started. The inspiration was a lot from kind of the door traffic miner, kind of reading about that and getting inspired about, being a data entrepreneur, a datapreneur. Just this idea that anybody can make some income on their own by collecting and selling data. So where that product uses, traffic mine from a door sensor, I was kind of thinking about, okay, how else can a user without, any specialized hardware get into this game of collecting data? So I thought, everybody's got a cell phone on them. Most people drive around. So maybe there's some application where, images can be used. And okay, who's in the market for images of, what companies would buy massive amount of images? Okay, AI companies. And that kind of gets the ball rolling into, a product where you can collect and sell images to self-driving car companies who are in desperate need of millions of images from all over the world captured at different times. So this app enables users to collect that data, upload it, and then get income for that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just straight out of the box, and anybody can participate, and that's what makes it great. No fancy equipment that you needed to buy. So I've talked a little bit about, and I wouldn't even consider it to be like a competitor, but they have Hive Mapper, and I mean that's a pretty interesting application, and it's run on Solana. But the problem with that is you need to buy a specialized camera, and then on top of that, I don't even think any of the data that they do. I think all of that stuff is off chain. I don't think any part of that application is actually utilizing blockchain for verification of of anything, but it is an interesting concept. And so this sort of takes that same application of driving and using driving data to get rewarded. But you could use AI training models. The other thing that jumped out to me potentially, because in your video that you explained how I believe that there's geotagging in it. So so like one application that or use case that kind of jumped out to me would be potentially having like cities and states have like bounties for potholes, potentially, like even here, like as we have the demo, like, so like this, I mean, I know that's not what you're showing, but I mean, you could potentially be driving around, all these dots could be potholes, right? And you could just be like geotagging, like, look, there's a pothole, and you could get like potentially bounties from cities.
Yeah, that's a great point. Anything you can kind of pick out from these images and can be kind of detected automatically could be a potential source of data from this data set that you're pushing out. Yeah, and bounties too. I was thinking another avenue for revenues. Maybe the customers of this data are requesting images from a certain time of day or a certain state or a certain, maybe there's a weather condition. All these different things can be looked up and then searched for within a database of images, right? So if I want Virginia between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. imagery, like you could potentially do that. Say you need to refine your model for night driving, that sort of stuff. Because when the image is, for every image that's collected on your phone, it also captures the time of collection and then uses your phone's GPS to tag its location, and that gets stored as well along with the image. So it all becomes searchable as well, and another data point for end users.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, so you had it this application running on the phone, which, as we talked about in our stream on Monday, about how I just was saying right now Elon Musk and Tesla kind of have a monopoly in a sense on training AI models for autonomous driving. But how many people are out there in the world right now that have a Tesla? I mean, I don't even know the number. I mean, it can't be that many compared to it's relative, right? Because then you have literally billions of people. I think the last time I looked on cell phones, I'm pretty sure there's more cell phones than there are people. I mean, so you literally have billions of cell phones that could all be turned into these cameras, and people could use that to get rewards, becoming a datapreneur, right?
The ability to grow this data set is pretty large. I mean, it can explode to, put it in 10,000 users' hands and they're all collecting, if it collects an image, right now it's configured to collect an image every 15 seconds. So if they all drive 10 minutes a day, you start multiplying that out and you're just getting a data set of images that's grown by millions and millions each day. So, I mean, that in itself is pretty incredible, and you could just kind of grow it to one of the largest road data sets really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and before I even knew that your application was even gonna be a thing, we all know that Panasonic is somehow involved with Constellation. They announced that they were a hackathon partner, and they were keeping a close eye on all the submissions, right? And I've pointed out several times that Panasonic has lots of different products, and one of the things that they have is they have this whole automotive division, right? So, I mean, what's to stop them from taking the application that you built and plugging that in directly to the software that they have. They have heads-up displays that are in lots of different Hyundais. I think I pointed out. I made a post about all the different vehicles that have Panasonic automotive parts, but that could potentially be a reality, right? Panasonic also makes cameras. So, I mean, like there's no stopping this application that you've built that's potentially going to become a Metagraph to be utilized by other people.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like kind of the customer base for this data. It could be like incumbents like Panasonic or any other big self-driving car companies, or if there's startups out there who don't have a fleet of cars to kind of gather images on their own. This could be a starting point for that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, Panasonic sounds like a big player in the space.
Yeah, and you also have, like in the Bay Area, you have there's Cruise, that autonomous car company, but they I don't even know how many cars that they have, right? So they could potentially augment some of their research with people just driving around with AutoSight, right? To help them with their own thing. Same thing with Waymo. You could even have like Uber drivers. They have phones.
Yeah,
They use that Uber app, which I think is pretty funny, especially when I get an Uber and some of the Uber drivers are Tesla drivers, and so you got the Tesla display that tells you where to go, but then they have their Uber app, which has like a totally separate map and telling them like where to go, but it's all on their phone, right?
yeah,
So like the Uber drivers could turn or Uber, right, could use this application to further have another additional revenue stream, right?
yeah, absolutely. If really all you need as a user is a little car mount on your dashboard or windshield to point it out the front, facing your windshield out front, centered on the road. So any potentially Uber driver or anybody really just in their car that already has their phone mounted, it just takes a few button clicks to get started and start pushing images to the Metagraph and getting rewarded for it. So uh, it could definitely be another income stream for anybody doing those sort of jobs.
Yeah, so I know that part of the requirements for the hackathon were, one, to have a GitHub repo, and two, that you had to set up a local development environment. So for your application specifically, like what are the next steps to get this, um, you know, out of the garage and onto the road, so to speak?
Uh, yeah, so there's a couple things. So, like you mentioned, it was developed using the local build tools. And if you were to go into my GitHub, it was built using like the Euclid development environment, which is kind of a setup environment for building metagraphs. And from there, you can just launch like a local nodes to host your metagraph, interact with those. And so that's like what my app was doing, just interacting with these local metagraphs. So the next piece of that would be to deploy it to like a cloud integration test net, and
Hmm.
that's kind of just like the staging area for all metagraphs before being deployed to the production side, where it'd be fully vetted and tested and ready for use. So
Hmm.
for me, the next step would be making some technical updates to the Metagraph piece, which would
Hmm.
include some of the stuff I talked about uh, in my project write up that hasn't yet been implemented, which would be like accepting token payments to, provide access to the images. Right now, whenever a user uploads an image to the Metagraph, or at least the image URL, it's public access. But the idea
Hmm.
behind the product is to have, paid access to these images. So there's some
Yeah.
updates to Metagraph that need to happen on that end. So making those changes within the Metagraph code and then pushing that to the integration net. And then from there, probably get like beta users to
Hmm.
download the app, push images to the database, get rewards, and just confirm that that's working on a smaller user base, and then push that to the production side where we probably set it up where make the app go live in the App Store and have the Metagraph fully vetted and tested and ready for larger audience.
Hmm. Yeah, and let me see if I can. So I'll share this tab. So for those of you who are watching, like what he's talking about is, so this is the Constellation Stag Explorer, and his, you can see all the transactions. So this is, happening right now. These are the latest snapshots. These are the latest transactions. But these are the latest snapshots and transactions in the test net. So this isn't mainnet. This is the test net. And that's what he's talking about. So these are all different development environments. Mainnet 2.0, this is the public one. But, there's no real architectural difference between this network and that network. This network just happens to be the public network, mainnet 2.0. But all these metagraphs are actually live on here right now, and you can actually see this with snapshots and the transactions. That's what he's talking about. And you also have this local environment, what he was talking about, where anybody can sort of build their application and have that running locally on your computer. So it's like a metagraph on your computer that's just interacting on your computer. That's kind of the nutshell of what he was talking about. Yeah. So how long do you think it would be before we saw some sort of testnet auto tokens?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like it could be pushed like in its current state to the testnet. Nothing on the testnet, I don't believe, or even the integration net should be accepted as like a finalized product. So, if there's even if it's not in its final state, that might be a good area just to confirm, people can interact with it and stuff. So getting something to there early is definitely doable within, the matter of weeks after making some updates. It could be done, in its current state, like right now, but with the tweaks I want to make, like I mentioned, like accepting payment tokens and kind of privatizing the data a little bit. On my end, it'll take a little bit of time, but if I wanted to, the current version could be pushed there right away, but it just wouldn't have that functionality that is intended for the end use case. But that's what the testnet and the integration net are for. It's for the development process to work out all the bugs. So stuff could be deployed there multiple times, as updates and features are added before it makes it to the final net. I think one goal was to have something on the integration net within the next couple of weeks, I think. Just like a minimum viable product there.
Yeah. And then we could see, something like this, like the Cyberlead, Intrana, they've got their INT token, the National DigiFoundry, and who knows what this is. This is like so that's the other thing too that a lot of people have to realize is not everybody is super public about what they're doing. And so this Metagraph token that you're seeing right here, I mean, this, who knows what this could be. Somebody's doing something, but yeah, this is where it would show up, and this is where you would see the transactions happening on the Explorer, on the integration net. And let me see if we could find any. Yeah, so see, here's the NDT tokens going, door. So yeah, I mean, so you're saying that theoretically you could go live with the auto token in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, to the integration net. I think that's a solid goal. There's a few different components to this project, like the Metagraph backend. There's only a handful of updates I think need to be made there, and then there's the app side, and then there's the kind of the web app side, which is that kind of map interface or data explorer part. And all those, I have a handful of updates I'd want to make. So putting it all together might take a little bit longer, but the Metagraph part, I think, could be done in a couple of weeks, could get like a minimum viable project going.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit on our other stream about, pulling in these external data sources, which is something is, unique to Constellation Network. Maybe can you maybe expand on that, a little bit, to the normal user on like why, that's important to have, and just the flexibility that this network allows you that isn't the same on other networks, especially like, Ethereum, for example, where you just have constraints on what you can do.
Yeah, just the ability to, make requests out to different APIs to either validate or get data is something you can't do on a typical Ethereum smart contract, which I've worked with before. And when I first got into Ethereum smart contracts, if you're familiar with programming and you get into them after like a little bit of programming them, you're like, oh, okay, this is all they do. It's just a really basic like data storage, update some values, kind of like validate who's sending messages, and then, updating hash maps sort of stuff, which you could do a lot with it, but it's really just like manipulating data that's stored on chain. And you're just doing that through like simple function calls. So getting into something like the Metagraph, which enables you to kind of access data outside of the contract or push data to the Metagraph from APIs, is just powerful. Like in this particular way, you're using an app to make a API request to the Metagraph that's pushing like image data and geolocation data and capture time data and store it on chain, which you could do on a smart contract, but then you couldn't do stuff like the validation, like if you wanted to reach out to an external API, which I plan on doing to like validate images that are coming in, to make sure they're like valid dashboard cam images, stuff like that. Or even when I want to like privatize the data, it will initially be ingested by the Metagraph, and then the Metagraph code will make API calls out to like a private server to store the data there, and then just store like a hash of the data. So there's a lot of stuff there as far as like storing data and validating it that you couldn't do with a typical smart contract.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's sort of maybe gets lost on a lot of people is the structure themselves, right, of these metagraphs. They're all layer 1 networks, but they're all based on the directed acyclic graph architecture. So scaling isn't an issue for these networks. So, for example, with the auto token, we could potentially have a day where, millions, tens of millions of, cameras or, nodes are all connected on this network. And this AutoSight network is a completely separate network than the Door network, which has, currently like 3,000 nodes on it. That too is a game changer. And I don't know how much you've dug into the tokenomics themselves of the network, but I think one of the great use cases and reasons why more developers like yourselves should be incentivized to join this network is not only can it plug into and use any existing databases, but you become a validator on your network right from the beginning. So, you can start earning rewards from day one. Like, I mean, that to me is pretty big reason for anybody to want to come and build on this network, is you can start earning back your initial investment right away. And then when we implement delegated staking, you could potentially launch your business for like nothing potentially.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that stuff, but that certainly sounds like a avenue to get projects rolling.
Yeah. Do you have any plans on making high def? That's in a couple of weeks. I don't know what you're.
I was looking at flights. I'm based in Virginia. I think they're not expensive, so I might be able to make it out there.
Yeah, high def is this October 24th. It's also a virtual event. So the virtual event is free. There's also the in-person event, which I've got pulled up here. If anybody's submitted to the email list, it goes over that and talks about, there's going to be a lot of keynote speakers. Diggles, we've pointed out that Diggles is going to discuss how DAG is applied to private and federal networks. I know that's been, something that a lot of people have wanted to know. Also, it was announced recently that Panasonic is a partner of High Def, so it'll be pretty exciting to see what that is all about. Outside of that, if you attend in person, I think the last event they gave away something like $10,000 in prizes, and this time, there's going to be prizes. I think we have Stardust Collective. I think it's so we're co-funding this. But I think we've made an announcement in a post about some of the giveaways. DTMs are going to be part of the giveaways. I think we're giving away some DAG. I don't know how much. So I'm not going to say an amount, but and there's going to be some other prizes too. So it should be an exciting event to be in person. If you can make it, if you're in California or close to it on October 24th, I strongly recommend that you at least make an attempt to come to the event. And if not, register for free, because it's going to be broadcast online, and that'll be a good way. But the in-person event, I promise you, will be something special. So it would
Cool.
be great if you could come, Bob. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be,
I'd love to. If I don't make it, I'll definitely be tuning in on the virtual side.
well, thanks again for taking the time. It's Friday night. Don't do anything too crazy, man. We need this application on the hyper on to hit mainnet. So stay safe this weekend, and look forward. Hopefully, we have some auto tokens on the integration net in a couple of weeks. I mean, that's pretty exciting. That this application of yours is developed enough that you could actually start putting some of that stuff on chain right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to continue developing it and just making some progress. We'll see where it goes.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy.